Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq, coming to you live from the SALT Conference in New York City. Joining me for this segment, we have Dr. Nir Barzilai. He's a professor of medicine and genetics at the Einstein-Mt Sinai Medical Center. We are here to discuss the biology of aging. Dr. Barzilai, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to TradeTalks.
Terrific, nice being here.
Let's talk about aging as a biology. It's more than just looks, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but looks help, right? You know your friends and the friends of your parents, and you know that some of them are aging faster than others, right? So think about it. That means that there's a biology of aging because I mean, you know who's old and who's young, but you know that there's a flexibility. What people don't know is two things. First of all, that this biology drives diseases. In other words, you can be born with genes for Alzheimer, but you're not going to be demented until you're 60. You need this biology of aging to drive diseases, Alzheimer or cancer or heart disease, okay?
Right.
The second thing that we have gone from hope to promise, we can change aging. Aging is very flexible, we can change it. There are drugs that are in human use now that can change the rate of aging, and the whole idea is of prevention. We want to change your aging before you get diseases.
So it sounds like there's a difference between biological and chronological.
Absolutely.
Right, and it's not as simple as going for plastic surgery and you attempt to look younger. There's connection to medicine to either
right.
stifle aging or manage the effects of disease related.
Well, because aging drives diseases, our role here is to do the prevention of the diseases. By the way, I have to tell you, I think we have to be young in your body and also to look young. I don't think they're contradictory, but that's not my research is about.
So what would be an example of preventative medicine to either slow or stave off something like an Alzheimer's?
So I'll give you an example. I could go on forever,
right,
of course, but there's a drug that's called metformin that is widely used for diabetes. Metformin is really affecting all the biology of aging. We have hallmarks. It affects all the hallmarks of aging. Metformin is the extract of the French lilac that in the 1920s and the 1950s was used to prevent arthritis and to prevent flu and things like that. And then it was discovered that it lowers glucose in diabetic patients, so it's an anti-diabetic drug. But interestingly, in diabetes, it's been a drug for 70 years or more. People with this drug have less heart disease, they have less cancer, they have less Alzheimer's, they die less. So we know from the lab that it affects all those hallmarks of aging. So this is an example of a drug that is FDA approved, that was repurposed already for many other things, like women with PCOS,
right,
for obesity, to prevent diabetes, people with pre-diabetes, and recently, it's the most effective treatment if you get COVID. And you take it within the first 3 days, then you have half the hospitalization, death, and long COVID.
It's interesting. So if you have something like a metformin that's being used for other indications than what it was designed for, why would you need to take all of these other medications if this seems to be, I wouldn't call it a wonder drug, but it's a more, it provides more solutions versus having to take 10 other different pills?
Well, there are several ways to target aging, and we want to do it because maybe if we do it together, we get better effect, right? I mean, our potential lifespan is 115 years, but we die before the age of 80, right? So we need 35 years to realize the metformin will give you several years, but what if we can do better than that?
Right.
So we need more drugs, but more than that, we need to be personalized, right? 3 to 6% cannot tolerate metformin, right? Or maybe they're too thin, or maybe they're exercise. Maybe there's other reason where we don't want to use metformin. We need several drugs, we need combination of drugs in order to really have an impact and prevent diseases of aging.
Is part of it environmental as well? Right. I mean, you should want to take one drug and think that it's going to, provide all these solutions. I mean, a healthy lifestyle, eating well, drinking in moderation, exercise. I mean, that's part of the equation too, right?
Absolutely. For everyone, you can maximize your health by exercising, by diet, by sleep, and by social connectivity. They all have biologically underpinning. Okay,
right.
But people are disabled, cannot exercise, and they eat they eat more, so they need help, right? Lots of people need help. Think of people who survive cancer. Cancer is aging. The treatment is aging. You give radiation, you give chemotherapy. Kids with cancer get heart disease when they're 35 years old. Women with breast cancer are terribly aging. So we need help to those people. People with HIV get diseases 10 years before their friends. And you know what? If we want to go to Mars, we're not going to get there before we solve aging. Because for cosmic radiation, we'll get disease on the way there and we'll never make it back.
Right.
So there's a whole reason why we should target aging beyond the fact that we want our elderly to be healthier.
Well, we were talking about this off camera, last week, that most of your work is with centenarians, correct?
Centenarians,
right. And once they reach a certain point of age, they're actually healthier than people who have disease that are younger than them. Is that what you were finding?
Right. Well, look, their friends died when they were 40 on average, so they already doubled their life expectancy. Right. But what we find in centenarians is, it's not only that they live longer, they live healthier, 23 years healthier than their daughter-in-law, okay? Not only do they live longer and healthier, they have a contraction of morbidity. That means they're sick very little time at the end of their life. So we started to talk about longevity dividend. The CDC showed that the last 2 years of medical expense of somebody who dies at 100 is third of those who die in their 70. And a professor of economy, Andrew Johnson from London Business School, says, hey, from a society perspective, you totally don't understand what you're saying. You're talking about people who are not in the hospital, but I'm talking about people who are not in the hospital. What are they doing? They're traveling, they're shopping, they're buying houses for the kids. So to be healthier has an economical value that for him, he calculates, it's $360 trillion within 10 years. We cannot afford not to target aging.
And even at that age, the patients that you work with, their mental acuity is there, and they understand what's going on and how they're being studied.
Right. Well, we found longevity genes and translated them into drugs. There are 2 drugs, FDA-approved drugs, based on genetic finding for centenarians. So, and those are genes that slows aging pretty much. So yeah, it's holistic. When we target aging, when we talk about those hallmarks of aging, they're in each cell of our body. And so we usually can use one drug to slow aging everywhere. If it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it will do it in the brain too.
Yeah, it is fascinating work, certainly something to follow. Appreciate your insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. And thanks for joining me from SALT. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.